Hey guys, Ryvoonz here. So Disney had an awful year at the box office in 2022. Disney lost $123 billion in market value in 2022 as shares dropped 44%. Worst year since 1974. So that means 2022 is their worst year in decades. And that's no surprise to me. I mean, look at the movies they put out this year. We have movies like Strange World, which was an absolute catastrophe. Strange World had a budget between $135 to $180 million. And it made 67 million worldwide. 67 million. That was an extreme underperformance. Like, it probably needed to make at least 400 million to break even, and it only made 67 million. They lost hundreds of millions of dollars on that movie. And this isn't even their only failure. They also had a movie like Lightyear this year, which also was a complete train wreck. Made on a budget of $200 million. That's extremely expensive. It made $226 million worldwide. This probably needed to make, at the very least, 500 million worldwide. And it only made 226. That's a catastrophe for Disney. And then it continues with their Marvel movies, their superhero movies, which also pretty much all underperformed this year. We have something like Thor: Love and Thunder, okay, the fourth Thor movie, which was made on a budget of $250 million and made 760 million worldwide. So while it wasn't a complete failure or flop or something, it probably just broke even. It probably had to make around $700 to $750 million just to break even, and it barely did that. And compared to its predecessor, this was a real disappointment, considering Thor 3, Thor Ragnarok, grossed $854 million. So almost $100 million more, and it was cheaper to produce. It only cost $180 million. Unlike the $250 million that the fourth one cost. So it was a lot cheaper and made a lot more money. And then we have Black Panther 2. And while that one also wasn't a failure or flop, it also underperformed expectations. It only made $820 million on a $250 million budget. Again, this isn't bad, because it probably needed around 700 million to break even. So it made some money. But compared to its predecessor, again, it's pretty disappointing. Looking at Black Panther 1, Black Panther 1 had a budget of 200 million. So again, it was $50 million cheaper, and Black Panther 1 made almost $1.4 billion at the box office. So that one was a huge hit. And Black Panther 2, they got rid of Chadwick Boseman, they replaced him with this girl, his sister, who was a way less compelling character. She was pretty boring and she's not a great lead at all. And the movie just was pretty bad. I didn't like the second one. The first one was solid, it was okay, but the second one was pretty bad in my opinion. And the box office pretty much reflects that. It made a lot less money. Then we have the only superhero movie that Disney can kinda be proud of, I guess, with Doctor Strange 2. Because Doctor Strange 2 was actually their highest grossing Marvel movie this year. Doctor Strange 2 made $955 million worldwide on a $200 million budget. And I wouldn't consider this one to be a disappointment. Because yes, it didn't break the $1 billion mark. And many people expected it to do, especially after this huge opening weekend that it had. The drop-off it had after that was pretty disappointing, yes. But it still made a lot of money. It was their most successful Marvel movie this year. Also considering that the first Doctor Strange only made 677 million worldwide. I mean, I shouldn't say only, because that's like a few years ago. And it also was cheaper to produce with a budget of around 200 million, and the second one also had a $200 million budget and made more money. So the first one made 677 million and the second one made 955 million. So it did outperform its predecessor. And it did make more money. So I wouldn't call this one a flop. That's like their only silver lining this year in terms of superhero movies. Doctor Strange 2. And even that one didn't make $1 billion. But then we also have some other movies that are also owned by Disney and that were complete flops. For example, Death on the Nile. And yes, that's actually a Disney movie. Many people don't know that, but it's actually a Disney movie. It was owned by 20th Century Fox, which is now owned by Disney, so it's technically a Disney movie. And that one only made 137 million on a budget of 90 million. So this probably needed to make around 250 million at least to break even. And it only made 137. So this one lost them a lot of money. And the next one is Amsterdam. Also a movie that many people don't know is owned by Disney, but it was also made by 20th Century Fox, which is now owned by Disney, so it's a Disney movie. And that one only made $31 million worldwide, on a budget of 80 million. That means it probably needed to make around 250 million to break even, and it made 31 million. So this one was a huge flop. They lost hundreds of millions of dollars on this one. So Disney had a really rough year at the box office. And that's not a surprise to me, because look at their movies. There are also other movies like Pinocchio and Turning Red that they didn't even release in theaters. But if they did release those movies in theaters too, I can guarantee you they would have flopped as well. So if I was Disney, then this year would be extremely disappointing. The only movie that I would be kinda happy with is Doctor Strange 2. Because that one outgrossed its predecessor and it made a lot of money. Other than that, Avatar 2 is probably their most successful one this year. Because this one was also made by 20th Century Fox, which is now owned by Disney, so it's a Disney movie. And it's also one we should talk about, and this one is easily their most successful movie this year. It was made on a budget of around $400 million, which is crazy. It's one of the most expensive movies ever made. But hey, it's James Cameron, so that guy never disappoints. And it's in theaters right now, and it's already almost broke even. It's already sitting at $1.4 billion. With a budget of around 400 million, this movie would have to make around $1.4 billion, I would say, to break even, maybe 1.5. And it has pretty much already broken even. And it's still got a long way to go. So this movie will make a lot of money in the end. Will it hit 2 billion? I don't know about that, but it will come pretty close. So overall, Disney had an awful year, many flops, many disappointments, and Avatar is probably the only real success they had this year. That just shows us that Disney needs to focus on quality. Their movies recently have all been pretty disappointing. I mean, Avatar 2 was good, I liked that one. But other than that, I can't remember the last Disney movie I liked. I didn't like a single Phase 4 MCU movie, with the exception of Spider-Man No Way Home, which came out 2021. So Disney is really struggling, they need to change up their game plan, they need to do something, because otherwise it's not looking good. Thank you so much for watching, I'll see you guys in the next video, so until then, take care.